All right, welcome. Today, we're diving into a really unique piece of Buddhist art that's also a powerful spiritual tool. It's called the Gohonzon, and it's this sacred scroll that doesn't just show you what enlightenment looks like, it claims to be enlightenment. And it offers a pretty radical answer to a very, very old question. You know, at the very heart of Buddhist art, there's this fascinating paradox. The Buddha taught not to get attached to appearances, but his teachings have inspired centuries of incredibly rich visual traditions. So how on earth do you give form to something as huge and as formless as enlightenment itself? Well, fast forward to the 13th century, and a Japanese monk named Nichiren comes along with a really daring solution. Instead of painting a picture, he wrote one. He created this calligraphic mandala that swapped out images for inked words, a move that would completely flip the script on centuries of tradition. Okay, so to really get this scroll, we first have to understand the world of its creator. We've got to travel back to 13th century Japan. And let me tell you, this was not a peaceful time. The Kamakura period was just rocked by constant turmoil, famine, earthquakes, political chaos, you name it. Nichiren saw all this suffering, and he believed that people needed a direct, accessible way to connect with their own inner power, right in the middle of their messy, chaotic lives. So it's really important to know that Nichiren's calligraphic scroll didn't just appear out of nowhere. It was both building on a long tradition of Buddhist mandalas, and at the same time, it was a revolutionary break from it. Think of it like this. The idea of the mandala traveled, and it evolved. It started in India as a kind of cosmic map for rituals. Then in China, it became more like a map of consciousness. By the time it got to Japan, it was a central part of esoteric art. And then Nichiren takes this long visual history and turns it into something brand new, a textual one. And this was a huge shift in how you engage with the art. With traditional mandalas, you'd look at them, you'd visualize yourself entering that sacred space. But with the Gohonzon, you don't just look, you chant to it. And by doing that, you actually enact that sacred space right where you are. You're not a spectator anymore. You're a participant. Now, the word Honzon wasn't new. It just meant the main object of devotion in a temple. But Nichiren's big innovation was to basically erase the line between the symbol and the real thing. For him, the Gohonzon wasn't just a picture of enlightenment. He taught that it is enlightenment, embodied in the title of the Lotus Sutra. Okay, so let's zoom in and actually look at the scroll itself. What might look like just a dense jumble of characters is actually a snapshot of a specific, incredibly important scene from the Lotus Sutra. This scene is called the ceremony in the air. Right down the middle in those big, bold characters is Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. On either side, you see the names of two Buddhas, Shakyamuni, and many treasures. Below them are great bodhisattvas, and surrounding them all are representatives from all 10 worlds of existence, from beings in hell all the way up to Buddhas, showing that absolutely everyone is part of this enlightened reality. And you know, while we usually see it as a scroll, that's not the only way it exists. The same principle has been represented through arrangements of statues. And this gets to a really crucial point. The specific form is less important than the fundamental reality it represents. This idea of awakening being transmitted to all living beings. This really gets to the heart of the whole design. There's a scholar, Luigi Finocchiaro, who just nails it. He says the Gohonzon translates the three-dimensional space into the bidimensional space of the scroll. In other words, it takes this huge cosmic 3D event and flattens it onto a 2D piece of paper from one simple reason, so it can be activated and brought back to life by your voice. Okay, so that leads us to the big question. How does this thing actually work? It's not a static icon. It's what's called a dynamic performative mandala.
The practice itself is, on the surface, incredibly simple. The practitioner faces the scroll, joins their palms, and chants Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. And the goal of doing this over and over is to dissolve that feeling of separation, to merge your own life with the enlightened reality you see right there on the scroll.
There's another line that captures this perfectly. Only when sound strikes the written surface does the mandala begin to breathe. The scroll by itself, the ink, the paper, it's kind of incomplete. It's the practitioner's voice, the sound of the chant, that brings it to life. It's like the mandala literally starts breathing with you. A really powerful way to think about this is to imagine the Gohonzon as a kind of spiritual tuning fork. It's not some outside force that grants wishes. No, Instead, through the vibration of your chanting, it allows your own life to resonate with, to attune to, the universal rhythm of the Dharma. It reflects and amplifies the potential that's already inside you. So, this whole practice is part of a bigger, more complete system. You have the Hanzan, which is the object or the image. You have the Daimoku, which is the chant or the sound. And you have the Kaidan, which is the place of practice or the community. Together, these three things form a complete, living system for awakening. All right, so this all brings us to what might be the most profound and personal takeaway from all of this. Because the truly revolutionary thing about the Gohonzon is that it's not a picture of some distant god or a faraway Buddha. Nichiren's favorite metaphor for the Gohonzon, and it's a brilliant one, was that of a mirror. When you sit before it and chant, you aren't praying to some external being. You're looking into a mirror that reflects your own highest potential, your own innate Buddhahood. And Nichiren himself, he could not have been clearer about this. He wrote, "Never seek this Gohonzon outside yourself. This ultimate reality isn't somewhere else. It's right here, inside us. The entire practice is just about drawing that potential out." But that brings up a really good question, right? If enlightenment is inside you, why do you even need a physical scroll? Well, the scroll acts at an interface. It makes our intangible internal potentials something concrete. It gives it a form we can focus on, share with others, and activate through ritual. And this had a huge social impact. Because the Gohonzon was a portable scroll, it literally moved the center of religious life out of these elite distant monasteries and right into the homes of regular people. It empowered everyone, including women, who are often left out of temple rituals, to be in charge of their own spiritual path. Ultimately, though, the practice goes beyond just personal growth. As one writer put it, the Gohonzon is the world seen rightly. When you bow before it, you're not just bowing to a scroll. You're cultivating a deep reverence for the incredible, interconnected web of all of existence. You're bowing to life itself. So, we'll end with this thought. The Gohonzon is a pretty profound technology for self-reflection, and it invites us to ask a question. If a simple scroll of ink on paper can serve as a mirror for our highest nature, what else in our own lives, our relationships, our work, our challenges, what in your life might be reflecting your deepest potential back at you?